Let me thank the machinists, one of the great unions in our country, for inviting me to be with you today. And let me thank the 600,000 members of the machinists for all of the great work that you do. For decades, your union has been a leader in the struggle for economic justice and the right of all people to live with dignity, respect, and security, and I thank you very much for that. Now, I know that we have a president who tells us every day how great the economy is doing. So let me tell you the truth. And the truth is that for over 40 years, the middle class of our country has been in decline, and we have seen a massive transfer of wealth from working families to the top 1%. If the level of income and wealth inequality that existed 40 years ago remained the same today, the average family in America would have $11,000 a year more in income. Since 1973, long time ago, massive increase in worker productivity, incredible explosion in technology. Do you know how much more the average American worker is making today in real inflation accounted for dollars? Anyone know? The answer is zero. Think about that. And you want to know why the American people are angry? They are working longer hours, in many cases for lower wages, and since 1973, in real dollars, they're going nowhere in a hurry. Today, at a time when millions of our brothers and sisters in this country are working 2 or 3 jobs to feed their families because the wages they are making are not sustainable for a family. You can't make it on $9 or $10 an hour. The 3 wealthiest families in this country today own more wealth than the bottom half of America, 160 million people. You got that? 3 families here, 160 million Americans there. Today, at a time when 500,000 Americans will be sleeping out on the streets tonight, and veterans all across this country do not have a roof over their heads, the top 1% now owns more wealth than the bottom 92%. Today, at a time when half of the people in this country have no net wealth. You got that? In the so-called booming economy, half of the people have no net wealth. They got nothing. They are living paycheck to paycheck. And I grew up in a family that lived paycheck to paycheck. I know a little bit about it. And it means that people are living under great stress. Oh my God, my kid is sick. I don't have money to take my kid to the doctor. Oh my God, the car broke down. I don't have the $500 I need to repair it. That's half the people in this country living paycheck to paycheck. But meanwhile, while the middle class struggles, the wealthiest people in this country become even wealthier, and large corporations enjoy record-breaking profits. Today, the United States has more income and wealth inequality than any time since the 1920s, and it is getting worse. And let me tell you something else. The American people are getting angrier and angrier with the corporate greed that they see every single day. And what the American people are saying, enough is enough. We want an economy that works for all of us, not just the 1%. Hey. Now let's talk about corporate greed. May not see it much on TV. I will talk about it. And what corporate greed is about is profitable corporations making billions in profits, but shutting down plants in the United States in order to get cheap labor in Mexico, China, and other developing countries. And we say to those corporations, respect the workers who created your wealth. Stop throwing American workers out on the street. And the American people are sick and tired of corporate CEOs who now make over 300 times what their average employee makes. You got that? Not double, not triple, not 10 times. They're making 300 times more than what their average worker is making, while at the same time, they give themselves huge bonuses, and then they cut back on the health care benefits of their workers. The American people want corporations to invest in their employees, not just in dividends, stock buybacks, and outrageous compensation packages to their executives. The American people are sick and tired of an economy in which they are forced to pay nearly 18% interest rates on their credit card. Do you know how much it costs these banks to borrow the money they get? 2.5%, charging the average American 18%, and Wall Street makes billions every year. American people are sick and tired of a pharmaceutical industry which is charging you the highest prices in the world for prescription drugs, double what the rest of the world pays. Meanwhile, the top 10 drug companies made $69 billion in profit last year. And that's why, if elected president, we're going to lower drug prices in this country by half.
Hey.
That's not a radical idea, because that's what it is around the rest of the world. We're paying twice as much. And the American people are sick and tired of a health care system in which 34 million Americans are uninsured, even more are underinsured with high deductibles and high copayments. What about the United States joining every other major country on earth and guaranteeing health care as a human right, not a privilege? Brothers and sisters, we have got to do everything that we can to defeat Donald Trump, the most dangerous president in the modern history of our country. And we will defeat Trump because we will expose him for the liar and fraud that he is. And the biggest lie of many lies, hard to keep up with the president's lies, you know. You need your calculator out there, but biggest lie is during his campaign, Trump said, "I will stand with the working class of this country." Well, let me tell the president, when you tell the American people during your campaign that you're going to provide health care to everybody, and then try to throw 32 million people off the health care that they have, that's not standing up for the working class of this country. Yeah. And when you tell the American people during your campaign that you're not going to cut Medicare and Medicaid and Social Security, and then you bring forth a budget which calls for $1.5 trillion cut in Medicaid, $845 billion to Medicare, and tens of billions in Social Security, that's not standing up for the working class of this country. And then when you tell the American people you're going to introduce a tax bill that will not benefit the wealthy, when 83% of the benefits over 10 years go to the top 1%. That is not standing up for the working class of this country. And now let me touch on an issue that is of enormous importance to millions of Americans, your union, Teamsters, and many other unions. And that is that today, about half of Americans who are 55 or older have no retirement savings. Got that? So you're 55, you're 60 years of age, you're going to retire, you got nothing in the bank, and you are scared to death about what happens to you for the remaining years of your life. Today, 1 out of every 3 citizens in America rely on Social Security for virtually all of their income. Today, 20% of seniors are trying to survive on an income of less than $13,500 a year. Can you imagine that? Imagine yourself 80, 85 years old trying to get by on $13,500. Now, my Republican colleagues in the House and the Senate, they got a brilliant idea. If they're giving huge tax breaks to billionaires, they're now concerned about the deficit. And their solution is to cut Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. Well, we got some news for them. We're not going to cut Social Security. We're going to expand Social Security benefits. But we've got to do even more than that. We have also got to protect and expand the pension benefits of the American worker. And this is a huge issue that doesn't get anywhere near the attention that it deserves. More than 40 years ago, the federal government made a solemn commitment to the workers of this country. If a retiree was promised a certain pension benefit after a lifetime of hard work, often giving up wage increases and other benefits in order to make sure he or she had that pension, what we say today is that a company cannot renege on that promise. But 5 years ago, behind closed doors and against my strong opposition, a provision was slipped into a must-pass spending bill that now makes it legal to cut the pension benefits of millions of workers and retirees in multi-employer pension plans. Boo! That's right. Can you imagine? I mean, how does anybody have faith in a system in which I say, look, you're contributing, your employer is contributing, you're giving up wage increases year after year after year, so you can have security when you retire. And then suddenly, one day you wake up and behind closed doors, Congress pulls the rug out from underneath you. And as a result, retirees all over this country are waking up to the unbelievable reality that the pension benefits that they are receiving today could be cut by 30, 40, or even 60%. Imagine that. So we are talking about retirees who will no longer be able to pay their mortgages. We're talking about retirees who will no longer have the money that they thought they would have for basic necessities. Brothers and sisters, this should not be happening in the United States of America. A promise made must be a promise kept. If I'm elected president, my administration will impose an immediate moratorium on any future pension cuts to multi-employer pension plans. Hey! And we will reverse the pension cuts the Trump administration has already approved, and working together, we will pass and implement legislation that I introduced a few years ago to make sure that everyone in a multi-employer pension plan receives all of the retirement benefits that they were promised. Now, my Republican colleagues, they say that, we can't afford the $30 billion price tag for this legislation. Well, let me be clear. If we could give $1.5 trillion in tax breaks to the 1% and large profitable corporations, we damn well can afford a $30 billion appropriation to protect American workers. Let us be honest, and what I try to do, my style of politics, as you may have guessed, a little bit different than others. I'm kind of blunt, don't want to waste a lot of time on dumb jokes. I just tell you what's going on, and you can go from there, but, let us be clear. Let me throw this out to you. And I think all of you know it because you live it every day, and your fellow workers live it every day. Corporate America and the billionaire class have been waging a 40-year war against the trade union movement in America. When Trump appoints some of the most anti-union members to the National Labor Relations Board, make no mistake about it, he is waging a war on workers. When billionaires like the Koch brothers spend millions of dollars successfully lobbying for so-called right-to-work laws, they are waging a war on you and millions of working-class families in this country. When companies threaten to shut down factories and businesses in America and say, if you don't take that cut in health care, we're going to Mexico, that is a war against working people in this country. And the question that we have got to ask ourselves is this: why does the billionaire class and corporate America hate the trade union movement and the work that you do so much? And the answer is pretty simple. In America today, union workers earn 22% more on average than non-union workers. In America today, 72% of union workers have a defined benefit pension plan that guarantees an income in retirement compared to just 14% of non-union workers. In order to rebuild the middle class in this country and create an economy that works for all of us and not just the 1%, it is absolutely imperative that we strengthen and expand the trade union movement in this country. In fact, without getting you too nervous, you are the last line of defense against the greed of the corporate agenda. You're there. You're organized. You have political power. You have bargaining power. You are it. And if the trade union movement disappears and declines, there's nothing to stop the incredible greed of corporate America. So how do we? Our job, it seems to me, is pretty clear. Right now, you have a Republican leadership that wants to make it harder for workers to join unions. Our job, at a time when millions of workers, more than ever, want to join unions, Our job is to make it easier for workers to join unions. And as somebody who has walked on more picket lines all over this country than I can remember, we are going to work together to pass the Workplace Democracy Act, which I introduced and will reintroduce in the Senate. What does it do? What does it do? First of all, the Workplace Democracy Act provides that when a majority of workers in a bargaining union sign a card to join a union, they will have a union. End of discussion. Okay? We are sick and tired of companies firing workers who are trying to organize, harassing workers, lying to workers, intimidating workers because they want to exercise their constitutional right to join a union. So if 50% plus one in a bargaining union sign a card, they have a union, and if employers refuse to negotiate with that union in good faith, we will impose very strong penalties on those companies. And what this legislation also does is it will make sure that companies are no longer able to ruthlessly exploit workers by misclassifying them as independent contractors or deny them overtime by falsely calling them a supervisor. Further, what this legislation does is ends once and for all the disastrous right-to-work laws in 28 states by repealing Section 14B of the Taft-Hartley Act. All right, brothers and sisters, this is a pivotal moment in American history. And our job is to make certain that we do not allow Trump to divide us up, which he's working very hard to do, by the color of our skin or the country in which we were born or our sexual orientation or our religion or our gender. Our job is to come together as we have never done before as Americans, black and white and Latino and native born and immigrant, gay and straight, bring all of our people together to make it clear that we want and will have finally a government and an economy in this country which works for all of us and not just billionaire campaign contributors. And when we do that, we can raise the minimum wage to a living wage, $15 an hour. We can have equal pay for equal work for women. We can invest trillions in rebuilding our crumbling infrastructure and create millions of decent paying jobs. We can have a trade policy that works for workers, not just CEOs. We can guarantee health care to all people as a right. We can end the absurdity of having a tax system in which Amazon and dozens of other profitable corporations do not pay a nickel in federal income tax. We are going to change that big time. We can create a nation in which our seniors and our children get the kind of respect that they need. We can do it if we believe in ourselves, if we are prepared to stand up and fight. Let's go forward and do just that. Thank you all very much.